And the reason why we're talking and sharing is because we understand how physical injuries and old injuries or current ones can impact your health even when you have an autoimmune condition. And we're just trying to bring awareness so that you're making sure that if you are still dealing with past old injuries, that you may need to address those if you're trying to heal holistically.
So,
oh
it's
gosh, that's
it's not good, but the weird thing is I understand this injury. See, because I can see it, and they telling me what it is. I know roughly that it's going to take time to heal. People at work are understanding. Everyone around me is understanding because it's a physical injury. That's the only thing that I've noticed that is different from when you have an autoimmune, because having an autoimmune is like having an internal chronically broken leg.
It wasn't like a physical fall or anything, but pregnancy really, I lost so much muscle mass and it really weakened, especially my lower body, that just bending down and being on my knees and grabbing toys underneath shelves and under the bed and all that kind of stuff just took a toll. And I wasn't doing enough physical strength exercises to be supporting those type of movements that I injured my knee. Healing Graves holistically, there's not much out there at all. We're kind of in this unknown territory. So we're inviting you guys into our personal journey. We may not know all the answer, but guess what? We're going to try to figure it out as much as we can.
This is Meron, and I'm based in the UK, and I'm the founder of Loving Me Kindly.
And my name is Priscilla, and I'm based in the United States, and I am the founder of Healing Unapologetically.
Together, we are co-hosting our podcast, Thyroid Sisters Navigate Graves' Disease. Over the last few years, since being diagnosed with Graves' disease, we have fought to gain our lives back and are both living medication-free.
We are not medical experts. However, through our experience of dealing with this disease, we have learned so much and want to share our journey of healing and self-discovery.
We have come to realize that trusting our instincts and intuition has helped us lead healthier lives. And our goal with these podcasts is to empower and inspire you.
So if I was to say, what's your mood check-in status? You'd say all over the place.
I would say, gosh, that I was like actually thinking about that the other night when I was like, what would be my one word to describe this week? Well, do you have one word that you can describe your week?
Yeah, I think I do. Mine would be rested. Because I don't have any choice.
Yeah.
I had to rest.
And we'll have to get into that, why you have to rest.
Yeah, of course. I don't know.
Which is perfect, like fitting with our topic.
Seriously.
Not perfect that you got hurt, but it just happens to go along with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're really good with like being in tune with how you feel and your surroundings. Whereas, am I right?
My compass. Right? Yeah. That's the one thing I always know, and I can always know. And even if I watch a movie and I can't remember what happened in the movie, I remember how I felt, and I remember the feeling of everything is feeling. Everything. But I don't know if it's because I'm a Cancerian and we've just very feely people who got our testicles out. Everything is a feel. If I don't know how to go to a certain place and I've forgotten the road of how to get, like when I went traveling, I would remember how I felt when I turned the corner, and then this sea feels right. It was I would feel my way to where I need to go.
That's, you see, I'm like more of a visual, like I am a landmark person, like, I remember this.
That's my husband. Yeah. Yes.
I can,
that's my husband.
I can figure, if I go there once, I can most likely get there without, navigation because of that. Like I observe my surroundings more.
I don't, and I get lost, but I will make it in the end. I will get lost and I'll go. Mine's a longer way, but I will make it in the end. So my husband gets frustrated following me around the road.
But I like, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, even on our very first date, I booked the restaurant, and I was walking. He was just like, "Are you sure you know where you're going?" Like he didn't even know where I booked it. But I was thinking, why is he questioning me? Of course I know. I was like, yeah, this way, follow me. And then I was like, oh no, this isn't the one, but it's the same restaurant, just bigger. Let's go.
Oh, okay.
Even on the very first day, I got it wrong, and since then I keep getting it wrong.
Oh my gosh. Well, it worked out.
It worked
because you guys are married now.
Good that he knew what he was getting himself into as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like, I wish I had a little bit more of that. Like I can know exactly how I'm feeling in a situation, because I feel like my feelings, I notice them. I don't even think I notice them. Like I have to, it's like pulling teeth. It's just like, okay, well.
So are you more like left brain and logical?
I think so.
Really? But then I wouldn't connect with you then.
Well, I think that was more conditioned. Right? I think I was more conditioned.
Person. No, you're very feely.
Yeah.
I think you are.
Yeah. I don't want to say I'm like robotic about it. But
nowhere near it.
It's like I'm an empath, so I feel a lot what other people are telling me.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my own feelings, it's just it's I really have to think about it.
Interesting. You're not used to it, so that means you're just such an empath.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
to put
like
it in
I can
a word,
feel people more.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it's kind of overwhelming, because when you can feel everything around you and people and their energy and all that kind of stuff, and that's all like visual cues of like creating a safety environment, right? You're constantly aware of the people that are coming in and out, what is changing and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just so hyper in tune to that I'm like not in tune with
I think it's good. It's balancing, because I'm hyper attuned to both, and then there's no rest for me, if that makes sense. I'm just constantly on. And I think if your emotions and your nervous system is constantly like, vigilant and stuff, it's not good.
Well,
so
that's not good.
That clarity of logic would have helped me, I think.
Yeah. It's all like a work in progress, it's just becoming more self-aware. But so I'm like having a really hard time with finding one word to describe my week, because it's just like, how would I describe it? Because I had a good week, but it was just like maybe I'll use the word unexpected to describe it. Just a week of I don't know if that's even would describe a feeling, but just
I know, right? You lost me there. Priscilla, you lost me there.
You're like,
but it's okay for now. We'll
see. That's like literal. Okay, that's like a literal word to describe it. But emotionally, I would describe it as a bit draining.
Draining. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm doing better. Yeah.
Okay. Draining and rested. Oh my gosh, we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. That's interesting.
Wow, we really are.
Let's see what drained and rested has to say for today's podcast.
Oh my god. Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, it'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
But draining just because of like the unexpectedness of like son getting sick, family being in town, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, very busy week for you. And then the same for me, but very busy week having a cycling accident. So
oh man.
So we both had, and that's why we couldn't.
We both had unexpected circumstances.
There you go. So that word is very relevant. Very relevant. I didn't expect.
You know what?
Yeah.
It is kind of relevant to the topic that we're talking about, which is physical injuries. Yeah. Almost always they're unexpected. You're never prepared, like for an accident, it's just like, boom, it just hits you.
Yeah. And then you're in the unknown, and then you don't know what's going on with your body, because you don't know what does this mean for my body?
Yeah. Well, you're so vulnerable too, because you're in physical pain, your body is injured, or depending on what happened, you're just vulnerable. But do you want to share what happened with your cycling?
So we're going into
incident?
part 2 because last week not last week, but the last time we recorded, it was so much in talking about. Well, I didn't know that this one was going to encompass so many things that we had to split it into 2 podcasts. Physical stressors. That's what we titled it, isn't it?
Yeah, physical stressors.
Yeah. So, and we're going to talk about part 2 is to talk about your accident that you had. But then here I am on crutches because I had a cycling accident. So
No.
I'm very physically stressed. But not.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just slipped. I was on a electric bike, so it was on full power because
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a regular bike. Maybe that's why I couldn't understand how hurt you were when you were like telling me. Yeah. Originally, you know.
I know, because usually my husband loves to cycle, and he cycles all the time, and he does long routes all the time. And for me, as soon as I hear it, I hope he's not here listening to me, but as soon as I hear him say, "Do you want to go cycling?" I know how happy it makes him. I'm like, sure, but inside I'm like, no. I don't think he's going to be listening to this podcast. I'm like, because like my butt, like I'm barely make it through a week through like the symptoms sometimes that I have. My body's inflamed sometimes. I can't guarantee my body's gonna work. But the last time we did it, I remember I was so proud of myself, and you have to be so hyper vigilant as well on the roads, you know. And I feel scattered, so it's such a stressful thing for me. I'm like behind him, like sweating, stressed, and then he turns around. I'm like, I'm like, good, because he's so happy. So
I know.
did it. But I remember we went. It was a 2-hour cycle, but again, it's power assisted. So that, oh my God, I would never have been able to do it if it wasn't.
Yeah.
And we made it there, and I thought, yes, I made it. And then I just remembered that, oh my God, I'm gonna have to cycle back. I only thought about the journey there.
Yes.
The next day to cycle back, my knee, my body, throat, it just was. I think it was so inflamed because this is a lot of pressure on the body if you've got like an autoimmune, and it wouldn't work. Like my knee just was in pain, everything was in joint pain, and I was like, I can't do it. I was telling him, he's like, no, you can, and he's trying to be helpful, but I was just like,
encouraging
my body. And I did it anyway, and I just remember thinking, I don't like this. But then anyway, it was his birthday weekend last week, and he wanted to go cycling again, and I dreaded it. I was like, no. But guess what? It was so lovely. The sun was out. Getting there was fine. I was so proud of my body. No joint pain. I thought, I got this. I got this. And then the next day I woke up and it wasn't too bad. I wasn't in too much pain, but I could feel exhaustion. I could feel I don't have that push anymore.
The energy,
or it was heavy. My body was still a bit heavy, and we were just going to pedal through the park and stuff. So I thought, okay, that's okay. This is not cars or anything like that.
Yeah, like any main road.
Yeah, and he puts the power assist on for me, so I'm not pushing too hard. And I said, can you put it on full, because my body's just literally not working right now. And he said, are you sure? He goes, it's going to be quite powerful. I said, I don't have a choice because I can't.
So is it faster when it's going full assistant? Okay, because I never rode on electric.
The more it like pushes forward. It's like assist, it's like a power assisted.
Oh, so you're going to be traveling faster every single time.
Yeah. So I just have to like using the brakes, like to sort of slow it down. But I couldn't. I needed it to have that assist because my body was not working as much as I would like to. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. So we tested it, and I was like, oh, that's much better. At least I don't have to push so hard because it just kind of pushes you.
Glides.
And then it started raining, and he was like, and he started getting panicked because it's electric, and he didn't account for the rain. Men get stressed out like really easily.
You see, that's another element, of stress.
Yeah.
The rain. Yeah.
I was just like, it'll be fine. What is he getting so stressed? And then I was just like, okay, fine. So I went fast to like beat the rain. I didn't want it to pour down on us and everything. And I was thinking, and then I just slipped my hand. It was just like a one slip thing, and it just went vroom, and the bike just ended up on top of me, and my leg was just gushing blood. And we had no choice but to cycle I was like an adrenaline. I was like crying, but upset. I didn't want to
Oh.
shock. People were stopping by, like, are you okay? I was like, fine. But I was just like, we need to go home, because I could see the blood coming out, and I was panicked. And so I rode on it back, and that wasn't good either.
Yeah, because you're re-injuring the injury.
But I'm just like, I need to get home, get the bandages, do whatever we need to do. So I panicked. Anyway, we managed to get home somehow, by the grace of God. And we did it ourselves, botch job. And the next day I came home, and the next day I called my brother, and he was just like, well, are you in hospital? When are you coming out? I was like, I'm not in hospital, I'm just going home. You're like, what are you doing? He's like, go hospital. And I was just I didn't even think about that. I was in too much shock. And my husband didn't think about it. He was in shock, and we were exhausted. So we went to hospital. Thank God we did, because it's like a torn ligament. They did x-ray. The wound, because it had like taken out like a deep bits of my skin. It was like chunks of it, and even the woman was like, God, you took out chunks of your skin. So it's like, it's not good. But the weird thing is, I understand this injury, see, because I can see it. And they telling me what it is. I know roughly that it's going to take time to heal. People at work are understanding. Everyone around me is understanding, because it's a physical injury.
You can see it.
I can I can see it. Everyone know, no, you take all the time till you recover that. That's the only thing that I've noticed that is different from when you have an autoimmune, because having an autoimmune is like having an internal chronically broken leg that see, and you don't know what things you're doing to make it worse. Whereas mine, I can physically see, and the doctors can physically tell you, and they can do x-rays and all that stuff. So all I can do is rest it, and I'm just getting the wound dressed weekly, and let's see where it goes. But I literally cannot move. My husband's doing everything, so I'm just the queen of the closet at the moment, which is nice. Which is nice, but I'm
that it is nice.
I'm not panicking. I don't know why.
That's good.
I know.
Because it's like, because it's inevitable. You fell, you got injured, you tore your ligament. It's, of course you don't wish that upon yourself, but it happened. You're resting, you're doing what you need to do to recuperate your health. So it's just, it's important to understand that physical stressors and physical accidents are things that just are out of our control, and they're inevitable. They're going to happen sooner or later. And the reason why we're talking and sharing is because we understand how physical injuries and old injuries or current ones can impact your health, even when you have an autoimmune condition. And we're just trying to bring awareness so that you're making sure that if you are still dealing with past old injuries, that you may need to address those if you're trying to heal holistically. Just trying to shine a light into that, because the body is responding to that stress. Just like we spoke about emotional stress, and then we're going to have another topic on chemical stress and how those three stressors are going to cause a misalignment in your body and your health. And unless you start reducing those, misalignments and you start reducing the stressors, you're going to be able to heal. But it's
we're trying to investigate, okay, what did we do in our past that the body is keeping score of, that we didn't that we just weren't aware. So because of a past injury I had, I spoke in part 1, I was on a lot of antibiotics at such a very young age. I'm sure that really messed up my gut, but then I wasn't aware to look after that. So over the years, that's that compounded before before you're diagnosed. So it's about we're trying to figure out what are the
depletion
that happened in the past that could have added before boom, you get diagnosed with a chronic illness. Like now I'm on antibiotics again, and you know how much I hate that. But at least this time I'm aware of my gut microbiome, and I'm taking my probiotics, and I'm being very vigilant and things like that. But when I was younger, I didn't do any of that. So again, it's like that compounded thing that has now led to, we think, we're just trying to figure it out, aren't we? And then
yes. No, you mentioned like taking the antibiotic, and it reminded me of this little clip that I have here from one of Dr. John Bergman's videos. So I based my healing off of Dr. John Bergman. I'm always sharing his information. So if you guys ever are curious to want to know more about chemical, physical, and emotional stressors, just go to YouTube, look up Dr. John Bergman. He's like on all platforms, even on Rumble, TikTok, maybe. I mean, he's everywhere. But on YouTube, he has a good data of videos there for you to see. So on one of his videos, he does mention that a physical stressor would be medications that can cause microbiome changes to your body, and antibiotics is one. So a lot of times it's not just an actual physical injury that you need to investigate, but also investigate what type of medication have you taken in the past, because those are going to cause physical stressors. And I have a list here. So high blood pressure medication is going to mess up your microbiome health. Medications for asthma or breathing problems are most anxiety medication, antibiotics, antidepressants, pain relievers, statins. It's just important. That's just a short list. And even some other ones that, can be very controversial, what I'm talking about, can cause microbiome changes as well. But we're sharing this information so you can do your own health history and you can investigate where are your main sources of physical stressors coming from. It can be a combination of medications that I just listed, or it can be actual physical injuries, and it could be dental, like in the first podcast or episode on physical stressors, we mentioned dental traumas. It's just, there's, I'm trying to see what else. Bowel disorder, joint issues, those are all going to be physical stressors on the body.
Yeah, EpiPens. I'm not sure. The epinephrine that you mentioned last time. Probably.
Oh yeah, that for sure.
Yeah.
Microbiome. That's going to mess with your whole nervous system, because it is a fight or flight medication. It's triggering that. So that is like we always talk about it. We have to make a episode on just that alone. It's a very new subject.
Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like you and I always say we need to do more research on it, because the last time I researched was when I was pregnant, and that was back in 2021. But there's such a link with epinephrine and people developing thyroid storms, But yeah, I understand that anesthesia is mostly used in life-saving situations. Epinephrine medication and anesthesias are used in life-saving. It was used for yours when you were given it because you were going into anaphylactic shock. So the problem isn't like, to demonize epinephrine, but to understand the risks and the possible outcomes that can come from taking it, so you can be prepared in preventing thyroid issues or preventing like a thyroid storm.
Exactly. Because when we were younger, we just didn't know what on earth. We weren't really connected with our bodies in that way. We didn't know that anything bad could happen. You just think, oh yeah, when I'm old, that might. You don't think about it at all. You don't even think about old age. You're just young and you're just doing things. So you don't know how all these little things matter. It matters. And I wish I could go back, but what's the point? There's no point thinking that.
I know. There's no point.
How much it mattered. It all mattered.
The other thing too is just, I always like to remind people, our bodies are extremely resilient. Like, love and appreciate your body. Even, I know it's hard to say this, even in the autoimmune season that you may be in, because those autoimmune symptoms are occurring because your body is adjusting to all these stressors so that you can somewhat function. And you're not functioning at your optimal level, but you are still functioning to be alive, which is what your body is fighting to do every single day. So it's not optimal. It's not the where you want to be. Obviously, we don't want to have autoimmune conditions. That shouldn't be the norm. But your body is just constantly adapting to these stressors. And that's exactly what Dr. John Bergman always says. it's not disease, it's adaptations. So that's why
That's interesting.
right? It's like your body's adapting to your environment all the time. And that also goes into like epigenetics and expression, nervous system health, because your body perceives the world through your nervous system. So that's that. He really is like the, to me, the original person that I've ever heard talk about nervous system health and autoimmune health, and how you need to start regulating your nervous system through minimizing physical stressors. And he just says it in a way that's so common sense.
He does.
It's not, you've heard some of his videos.
I have, and I'm so thankful because I hear you say Dr. Bowman so often, and I checked and I thought he simplified it for me. I was like, oh my gosh. And I watch and I read so many things, but I really love how he simplifies it. And like you just said, it's not disease, it's adapting. That kind of helps you put it in your hands, because if someone says it's disease, you think, well, where is it coming from, and why is this happening to me? Why am I under this attack, and what's going on? But if it's an adaptation, then it's like, okay, it renders you to look at your surroundings, and it's in your hands then, isn't it? So in a way, what can you do to lessen those things so that your body is not all over the place adapting to all these stressors? It changes it changes the perspective.
It completely shifts the perspective. You start to look at what you have in control, and you realize there's a lot in your control. Not that it's easy, but there's a lot that you can do that can support your health on a day-to-day basis. And it's not about like, what's the word that I want to say? Getting stuck in what you can't do or in the unknown, but it's more of getting focused on what you can do and what you can change, and pouring your energy in there, because it's a constant balance between those two. And we also talked about this as well. Like, a lot of our anxiety comes from just the unknown, because there's so many question marks with autoimmunity, with any autoimmune condition, because no doctor's going to tell you how you got one. The causes are unknown. So there's always that fear and anxiety of, if I don't do this, if I do this. And we want to do a future episode on that, specifically on thyroid health as well, like the risks on doing conventional treatments, integrative treatments, and holistic treatments. Because the truth is, everything has a risk. Whatever decision you do, there's risk. Whether you do the radioactive iodine, there's risks. Whether you do thyroidectomy, there's risks. And whether you keep your thyroid, there's risks. So it's not a risk-proof solution.
Yes.
It's just, where can you be most hands-on, responsible with how much, how much responsibility can you take with your own health? And depending on that answer, you're going to find the treatment.
It's like the episode that we did where I just came back from Ethiopia, and I was sharing my results. And at the time, when the doctor said to me, your health has deteriorated and you're going to have to go on medication. I hadn't been on medication for 6-7 years. And I was like, no. So I had to focus on what I can do. I was like, okay, I need to give myself 1 month and do things that I know I can do. I can supplement, I can detox, I can do the celery juice, I can eat all these things. So I just focused on what I could do. And that could come with a risk, because everybody around me was telling me take the medication. And I was scared too, thinking, gosh, what are the risks of me not doing what the doctors told me to do? But I just focused on what I could do. And in the end, I lessened it all. Like the results changed, and I did make a difference in my results without the medication. That's just for me. Everyone's different. You got to follow your own thing. But everything has risks. But focusing on what you can do, you can make a difference. If you can make a difference by detoxing, or replenishing and giving the body what it needs, you can make a difference, I think.
Oh, for sure. I think that people want to see more drastic results with the effort that they put in and the short amount of time they do. I've noticed that that's probably been one of the most messages that I get on my Instagram account is why am I still feeling like this? I've already been gluten-free and dairy-free. And
Yes.
yeah, you
I
know,
think that a
or
lot. Me too. I
yes.
think that all the time.
And I get it, because I think that on the surface, when you are so desperate to heal, hearing something like, hey, going gluten-free and dairy-free, you know, I wasn't dairy-free, but a lot of people are. I was gluten-free. They say that they feel much better. And then so people are like hearing this and they're thinking, okay, the only thing I have to do is go gluten and dairy free, but they're not addressing the other physical stressors. So then they get very discouraged on their health journey, because they're not seeing these drastic results that they're maybe hearing online from someone, and they were hoping that they would. So it just creates this kind of like a vicious cycle. And I want to like my heart, and I was thinking about this, like I really want to create a space where people are feeling like uplifted, more hopeful, less stressful about the health journey. Because I feel like every single time, at least when I go online on social media, there's one new post about what can be wrong with you. Like, let me tell you how you're dealing with this trauma, or let me tell you why you probably have this going off, or let me tell you why you're not healing. It's because you need to do X, Y, and Z. Or it's always like, you're not well, and it's because of fill in the blank, you know, it's this issue you haven't addressed, or it's this other issue, and this, and I get it. It's like, we've talked about this in actually a current episode that we released this past Monday, which is can you fall in, can the, oh gosh, the title.
Can using the love languages, can knowing your love language help you fall in love with your healing journey? Yeah.
And to simplify it.
Or simplify
And
it
I
mainly.
was,
Yeah. Simplify
yes,
your
because I've been
healing.
listening to it, and I realized just when I was listening to it and we were talking about how there's so much information overload, it's like you appreciate it, but at the same time there is so much that causes stress.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think what's stressful is that there's always someone on the internet being like, oh yeah, you know, your favorite non-toxic product, well now it has lead, you know, or they're like, oh yeah, you know how you, or they're like, oh yeah, you know how you do all this, well guess what, it has this, or there's always these like,
and then you're just
you know,
drowning. That's it. Your ship is just sinking.
yes. And you're like, well, I'm putting in all this effort.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, you know, it's not good enough. Or it's, I mean, I get it. They're creating awareness, but when you're going online and almost especially if you're in the wellness community, you're just going to be surrounded by a lot of, the algorithm's going to give you a lot of those type of information.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know,
it's like
so
awareness
it's not even
overload and information overload. Is there such a thing as awareness overload? Because
it's just I think what's missing, it's not so much that the lack of information or the lack of awareness that people are creating. I appreciate it. We both mentioned that we love that, because without that information, we wouldn't be able to have made the changes we made. However, I feel like what's missing is that, like, you're going to be okay. You know, like, life is stressful, but you're going to be fine. It's okay. It's okay. But don't stop what you're doing, because you work so hard where you're at your health journey now to get so distracted because now someone is saying you need to do this, or let's say you panicked because you heard some new information. I feel like there needs to be encouragement to like continue to, there needs to be encouragement so you can continue being grounded in your health journey. And not be like ping-ponging so much with whatever information is coming your way.
Yeah.
And you don't need to have anxiety over it. You just need to literally, your only goal for every day, and this is what I would tell myself when I was healing Graves, is I just have to do my best. That's it. My best.
That's true.
Not what somebody else is telling me is the best, not what somebody else is saying is what their best is or what your best should be. It's what is my best. Period. That is it. And that's why, like, I think I mentioned in our YouTube video, when our initial videos that we did, how in the beginning of my health journey, I wasn't drinking like the best quality water. I wasn't drinking tap water, but I was drinking bottled water. I was making upgrades wherever I could, how I could. And I wasn't beating myself up over what my best looked like, you know? And you just have to focus on doing your best while reducing the stressors that are in your life. That is it. And
yeah, I think that's why that episode, if anyone is listening, should watch that one, because when I re-listened to it, I was learning again. Oh yeah, Maron, just focus on, don't you remember, these are your love languages affirmation. So remember, just put all the words out there. I've got all the words around my room, and I can't remember my other affirmation. Quality time. Yeah, Spencer's creating that me time. So I think the love languages one helped me simplify my journey. It just went, I just felt this weight drop, because I was just like, oh yeah, I don't like doing that stuff. So rather than push myself to do things like exercise, I mean, of course exercise is good for you. I'm saying, like, for instance, you enjoy it. For you, it's part of your love language. You said it's physical touch, being physical. But focus on the things that work with your will, as you always say. Work with what you enjoy and what you like and what replenishes you, and maybe leave the other things for another time. So that simplifies it. It really simplifies it, because you're working with your will. So you're in alignment with yourself. So you're not feeling overwhelmed.
Yes, exactly. And you're meeting yourself where you currently are.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have a hard time with that, because they think they're either more advanced than where they are, or they think they're doing a lot worse where they are at.
Yeah, I think probably a lot worse. I think that's probably where people are. For instance, when I told you, when the nurse was doing my dressing, and she said, "Oh, your body's healing really well."
Oh yeah.
She goes, "That is a really good fast healing," and I was in shock. I was just like, I've never heard someone say something good about my body. And I've like, my body's broken, it's not working because of the autoimmune. Like you're just like, what's going on? It's not working. That's the narrative you tell yourself. My body's not working. I need to figure it out. When she told me it's healing really well, I thought, then it's being normal. Then it's not under attack. Or it was so beautiful to hear my body was actually working for me and working so hard to do what it was supposed to do. And here I was running narrative that it's broken, because that's what happens when you have an autoimmune. I feel like that's the narrative. I'd love to hear what people think if they also run that narrative that it doesn't work and it's broken. Because after she told me that it's healing really well, it's the first good thing I heard about my body in all these 9 years, I started to just change that narrative. And like I said to you, I feel rested. I'm not panicking. My body is doing what it needs to do. As long as I do the things to help it, it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. And it's good and it's amazing. And I love my body. It just like helped me fall back in love with it.
That's amazing.
Good news. Yeah, that is this beautiful body is actually working so hard. It's not broken.
Yes. It's, you know, and I share this with you, is that John Bergman always uses that analogy of like, when you cut yourself, your body quickly works to recoup, you know, to heal it. And you can see it. You form a scab. Your body is designed to self-heal, to self-regulate. But in modern day, there are so many modern stressors that attack that natural flow, that add a lot of stress. It gets in the body's way. So, and a lot of it's just unintentional. It was for me. I mean, I think all of us with autoimmune diseases, it's all unintentional. Like, we're not out there trying to get sick. So there's just, you know, there's modern life is evolving at a speed that is much quicker than the wisdom is of should we implement these modern conveniences, because I think that we are paying a big price for a lot of modern conveniences because we lack the wisdom to see the potential consequences of implementing them, you know, and that's why there's such a high rise in autoimmune conditions that I feel like I truly believe that that's a consequence of a lot of modern conveniences that we implemented years ago, just for the sake of we're evolving and we're modernizing, but we weren't doing it with wisdom. We weren't really asking ourselves, what price are we going to pay for this?
Like an example,
everything is always
an example of a modern convenience. What would you say is an example of that?
Food. We took farming to become factory farming. Now we have GMOs. Our soil have been depleted since the early 1900s. You know, it's just like we knew about this for almost a century, or now a century. The soil's so depleted. It's been depleted since 100 years ago. So, you know, or the hybridization of wheat. They did it with the best intention. They did it with the intention to stop world hunger, right? How can we grow a food that we can supply to many countries and we can have that would grow in abundance so we can try to solve world hunger? Oh, let's hybridize wheat. Good intention, lacked wisdom, and now we have generation of people that cannot digest gluten. They're either celiac or there's sensitivities and intolerances. I'm one that have intolerances. I never had it as a child, but my gosh, when I had it when I was an adult, it is a nightmare. You know?
And it's because we had it as children and it just added until it was too much.
Yeah, when you're young, your body adapts a lot quicker. You know, you don't see those signs, you don't feel it. But by the time for me, in my late 20s, my body was really slowing down. You know, it just caught up. So, yeah, I know we're kind of talking. Well, I kind of feel like that's what our episodes are about. We have a topic, but we always talk about just wellness and autoimmune health, you know, because food is actually a physical stressor as well. Bowel syndromes are physical stressors. Like I just mentioned, I had gluten intolerance that caused leaky gut. That was horrendous to deal with.
Did you get diagnosed?
Oh no, but I had.
Same.
I didn't get. If I would have been diagnosed, I would have been diagnosed with IBS, which is
That's what I think I have.
What's IBS stand for?
Irritable bowel syndrome. I've diagnosed myself. I know I have it. I don't need to.
I mean, you use common sense. You use clinical symptoms, and you read what the clinical symptoms are, and then if you examine what your clinical symptoms are. If it's, I had all the classic signs, and for me, it wasn't that I was unwilling to go see a doctor. I just didn't have health insurance during that time. I literally couldn't go see a doctor. When I felt my worst, which was in my late 20s, which I should have gone to the doctors, I just couldn't go because I couldn't afford it. I didn't have health insurance and I just couldn't afford it. So,
and then it's like my knee healing, but at least I can see it and the scab's forming and I'm not going to add anything that's going to make it worse and I'm looking after it. But irritable bowel syndrome or those kind of things are like internally you're probably you're never allowing it to heal because you don't know what's going, you can't see it. It's like an internal scab that keeps constantly trying to heal itself. Then you do the wrong thing. It's like this thing that's just infected all the time, or it's unhealed all the time. But then it's so expensive to get checked. That's why I haven't done it. It's so expensive.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Mark Hyman, I discovered him back in what was it? Like early 2010 era. Maybe 2010 actually. And because I was suffering so much with my digestion, that I just went online and I was trying to do some research and I found Dr. Mark Hyman during that time. He was, he might have been he wasn't quite yet as established as he was and is now, but he was talking a lot about leaky gut and gluten. Like that was, he had written so many books on it, and just like on different diets on like the recent diet. I think I bought one of his books, but when he was mentioning the symptoms of leaky gut and gluten, like he was describing me. And that's why it's so important to do your own research, because you have those moments of awe. And I also mentioned that in the love language episode, that it's so important for you to experience those moments of awe, of connecting information, of having information resonate with you, rather than being spoon-fed information, which is like social media.
Yeah.
You're constantly being spoon-fed. You need to really go and connect and learn something every single day, and have those moments. And when he was describing a classic patient with leaky gut, I felt like he was talking to me. Like stomach pain after eating gluten, having to go to the restroom immediately after eating it, having loose bowel, having foul bowel movements. It was, everything was there. So the easiest way that I knew that I was gluten intolerant was I just eliminated gluten. And within that week of eliminating it, I visibly looked so much better that my family was in shock. They're like, what are you doing? And it was like, you know, I'm describing a time in my life where I was extremely, extremely sick. Okay. I just didn't know it. So I was extremely overweight. My skin was very dull and ashy. I had no life and color to me. Skin was extremely dry. I was feeling a lot of tugging and pulling in my heart. I remember we talked about this maybe on our WhatsApp, but feeling this heavy load on your back, almost like you're hunched. I honestly thought,
here, on your shoulder,
the tightness. But I literally remember there was a certain day where I thought, I mean, I don't like saying this, but I literally thought I was going to die. Because I was like this, and I couldn't straighten up. It just literally felt like I had someone sitting on my back. That's why whenever you talk about those muscle pain and ache, and that scares me the most about if I never want to go back to my old ways, because if I have to deal with those aches and that back pain, you know, it's scary. It's very painful.
It happened to you so long ago. I thought you weren't going to remember how it felt, because I'm having it now, and I know it's been so long, but you remembered when I said to you.
Oh, you don't forget.
It was, and you were like and when you described it, I was like, it's definitely vivid in your mind how it felt.
Yeah, when you feel like you're gonna die, you don't forget something like that, you know? It was like, and I know not too long ago in my Instagram I found some, and that's a physical stressor, like what we're describing, like that. Honestly, if you are feeling so much shoulder ache, muscle ache, tension, and if you start feeling that weight on your back, do not hesitate to go to the doctor. That could potentially be a heart attack. Okay, guys, for women.
You're joking. I didn't know that.
Men, I've heard they feel heart attacks in their left arm. Women, they feel it on their back. Yeah.
Are you joking me? But they don't tell you that. I thought it was everybody gets it in the left arm. That's so scary.
For women, it's the back. So it's just like, there's just certain physical symptoms you just do not ignore. Learn from our experience, you know, like I really do. That's why my faith, I always go back to my faith, that it really sustained, because I had zero resources for healthcare. And you know, it's scary what the body can go through with undiagnosed thyroid issues. It is extremely dangerous, especially when you're, you know, feeling heart tugs and pulls and back pain and palpitation. I lost I had like lost vision in one of my eyes at that point. It was bad.
Was that because of the car accident?
So yeah, like I guess we can just jump into that. So,
Yeah.
and probably like in 2008, 2009, I was involved in a car accident that was almost a head-on collision.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was driving, but it was a 2-lane road. So there's only one lane going in opposite directions. And it was extremely dark because, you know, during that time we lived in out where it was like hardly developed. It was just development was just starting. So there wasn't much city lights at all. And the car was pulling out of a neighborhood, and instead of pulling into his lane, he pulled into in front of ours, but he kind of turned. So he literally avoided a head-on collision, but it was about to be a head-on. And maybe I was going 55 on that road, which was the speed limit was 65. So I was, I was doing everything responsible, but the airbag imploded and it like just took me out. I just remember waking up and there's the smell of like, I don't know, engine or whatever, my nose was like bloody and gushy and I was disorientated, I was like, really, it knocked me out. That airbag knocked me out. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I just wanted to go home. And I remember the ambulance, the paramedics were like, you look like you have a broken nose. You need to come. They were like trying to convince me to get into the car. I didn't. I wanted to go home. I had other family members with me. They had to be hospitalized as well, or like rush, Luckily there wasn't any severe injury, but I also got to see how the trauma healthcare system they're super overwhelmed because when we were driving to one hospital, we got turned down because they were so full. Okay, that we had to be taken to another hospital. This is back in 2009 on maybe a Thursday or Friday, random week. I can't even remember. Was it a Saturday? I'm not even sure. Okay. So the system, knowing what I know now, the system is already stressed a lot, right? The healthcare system is. So when I got brought in, I wasn't really examined because one of the first things I did was I ripped the neck brace that they put on me because there's like this metal piece from it that was digging in the back of my head while we were in the car ride, and I couldn't move because you're strapped. So the whole time in the car, all I'm feeling is this. But it's interesting how your body kind of focuses on something so minor. Because mind you, I wasn't moving my arm because when the airbag imploded, I was still holding on to the steering wheel. So the airbag just like punched. All that force impacted my arm as well.
Okay.
So I was like they called it the injured bird or the injured wing bird, where I was like cradling my arm. I was like this, my nose was bloody, I couldn't see from one eye, but in the ambulance, the only thing I was thinking of was that little metal, I don't know what it was, on that brace that was just digging in the back of my head. So when we finally got to an emergency hospital, I ripped it off. So the doctors were scared because they thought I could possibly have like a neck injury and I shouldn't make any movements. But the fact that I was able to move like that, they've realized, okay, you're not suffering from some type of like neck issue, trauma. But then I got left alone for a while.
In the hospital?
My nose, in the hospital, in the emergency room. Yeah. My nose never got examined. And then my arm got examined. It was just extremely bruised. Like it was the one part of my body that was just not as injured, but it hurt so much. Like I was just cradling it, but it was fine. It was just bruised. It was just aching from the airbag. But yeah, my nose, so I had a deviant spectrum where your like cartilage kind of moves. But that never got examined because.
So you learned that afterwards at some point that it had, but they didn't examine. What was your nose like bloody and everything?
So a nurse came by and she gave me a tissue because I had like blood everywhere. So she was like, here, you want, because imagine people are walking
your
in,
face.
and I was on one of those stretchers sitting there, and my nose is just like, like blood everywhere. And she was like, here's a tissue. So I was just like trying to clean it off. And I felt like my eye was swollen shut. But what they discovered was when they finally got to me, they were doing the, okay, cover one eye and point to like this item, and then now cover your other eye. So when they were telling me to cover my left eye, I was extremely confused because I was like, my left eye is swollen shut. And then that's when they realized that I couldn't see out of it, and my eye wasn't swollen shut. It looked the way that it looked now. I had an internal bleeding. So the bleeding wasn't even on the outside of my eye where you might see it. It was internally. And it's some kind of weird thing that can happen when the airbag explodes. There's a possibility that it can cause that type of injury, and it did. It did for me.
But the airbag did that. Is that what made you not your nose bleed? And is that what hurt your arm? So it saves you, but
the
it
airbag
absolutely destroyed you at the same time. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where physical traumas and injuries kind of there's always risks. Like, we talked about EpiPens and the risks and antibiotics and the risks. Well, the airbag, it's saving my life from like, more damage and hitting the dashboard. Yeah, but it still caused significant injury. It caused all of my injuries, the arm, my nose, and my eye. So, I want to say within 5 years or less, 5 to 6 years after that incident, my eye issues were, like I started to have eye issues, especially with my left eye, which is the one that was damaged. Now I don't. Like I have floaties, those little floaties, little floaties. Yeah. But
they didn't check you.
By the time
they just did.
I had to see
checks. They just said, look here, close this up, like look at that.
Yeah. So when they realized that I couldn't see, then they started to take my injury a little more serious. They had another doctor come in. They were like, lighting this, or they were shining this light in my eye. It was extremely irritating. I realized something about myself when I'm in physical distress. I am like extremely short. I'm like,
you're like, what? Stop touching me.
I'm like,
leave me alone.
Out of here now. Don't touch me. I don't want to be here. I'm just like, it's really interesting.
Rather than fix me, help me. Here I am. Do what you need.
I'm like, I want to go home. Don't touch me.
I want to go home. I know that I want to go home feeling. I know that. Yeah.
I mean, I was in my early 20s. I was like 21, 22.
Maybe because you're not aware of what the implications of really bad injuries are going to do to you. You're just so unaware.
I wish so much I would have been like, can someone please examine my nose?
Because
I wish
knock-on effect. The body keeps score.
Yes. Like my arm too, because I noticed that this left arm I have like on this part right here, it's a little bigger than my right. And I feel like since that accident, I've had like maybe tightness of nerves there. I don't know what, but I do feel that airbag impacted that section. That's where I was hurt the most. That's where I was like cradling, but they didn't even examine that other than like, okay, it's not broken. I don't remember getting any x-rays taken.
Oh my God.
This is what's so scary about the healthcare system. And, you do not know what the procedures are. It's very hard to advocate for yourself. You shouldn't have to advocate for yourself when you're literally dealing with a physical trauma and physical pain. You're physically impaired, visually impaired, you're mentally impaired. You are completely like
at the mercy of the medical system.
Yeah, on the medical system.
Yeah.
So there's so much that I wished would have happened, that I wish I would have, what I know now, I could have like advocated a little more. But it's just hard.
So, I mean, nothing happened to your nose. They just sent you home. It could have been infected from the inside. I mean, I don't know. Anything could have happened.
And I started to have a lot of breathing issues at night, and then sinus infections. It
You
all
see?
got worse and worse. Yeah. And I knew it. It was just from not having proper examination, of being thoroughly looked at.
That was when you were 21.
It's sad. Mm-hmm.
Because remember when we spoke about in part 1, we were talking about what happened in our childhood that was really detrimental physically, and I said mine was my hand. I remember you saying I didn't really have anything traumatic except the dental, but this is traumatic. Maybe because it was in your early 20s, but then that could still impact your body so much that you get diagnosed 10 years later with autoimmune.
I think that I don't identify it as a childhood trauma, but it's definitely a physical trauma. It's just happened when I was 21, and it was extremely devastating because 5 to 6 years later, I was dealing with so many other health issues, thyroid issues. It's just, you know, and I never addressed those injuries. I addressed my physical stressors, like leaky gut, losing weight, being physically active, and I was able to not only like reverse my, you know, my thyroid health or Graves, but not have Graves antibodies. So that's what I'm telling you is you can just do what you can and do your best. And as time allows it, as your resources allow it, you can continue digging deep into those physical stressors. Like I would still love to get my nose, looked at, because I feel like even now my face has changed a lot. My nose is bigger. Like I feel like this area is a lot bigger than what it used to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the weird thing is I remember when I was pregnant, I had something that's called pregnancy nose. When you have your face. Not everybody gets
how many notes I take. You know how much I don't like. I'm already getting shocked. Did you see my face? That was pure.
Well, we're talking about physical trauma, so they're going to be scary stories. But
oh my god, something else. What now?
So I thought I was crazy because I was like my gosh, my nose looks huge when I was pregnant. Okay, and I thought it was just me. But when I was like in my first trimester, when I was just found out that I was pregnant, I was having like a histamine reaction to my pregnancy. Like your body kind of fights it because it's like, what's this foreign object, right? And I was sneezing like crazy. I was just reacting to it. And luckily everything was fine. My body obviously accepted the baby. Ryland is here. But my nose is something that's just so sensitive already. And then later into it, I just felt like there were days that my nose looked so big. And I remember on Instagram, I follow this nurse who does a lot of like pregnancy and birthing tips. And she mentioned the pregnancy nose. And she said the reason why some women get pregnancy nose is because your body is producing so much more blood that it creates, areas of your body to be swollen. And for some women, it's their nose. And for me, that was, true. Like I had pregnancy nose. Yeah. But there was this one day where my nose looked normal. Like my face completely changed. And I went to visit my mom and she immediately saw it. That's why I know there is I still am going to work on figuring out this area, because also, go ahead. I know I'm like,
oh no, I'm taking it in. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Taking it in. My mind is like putting things together.
I'm like, what is it? You can tell me. But yeah, like immediately after the car accident, I started to have like sinus issue, drainage, and all that kind of stuff. So now I manage that because of a lot of the lymphatic movements and exercises that I do. That is so important for a healthy sinus drainage, is to get your lymphatic moving. And but still, I can tell visibly that my nose literally has changed from that accident.
That is
insane.
Because with my knee injury now, I'm so aware about things. So even my brother, because he watches a lot of football, they get a lot of ligament injuries and they're out for the whole season. And he was like, you need to get that checked. Had he not really like enforced it, I would have thought, oh, it's gonna get better, it's gonna be fine. But then what's gonna happen is this whole thing of the body keeps score. Internally, it's not gonna heal well. There's gonna be scar tissue. It's probably gonna like chronically inflamed. It's going to have a long-term impact if it's not treated how it's supposed to be treated. Because people, they work with them day in, day out. They've got the physiotherapist every day for like months just for that one injury. And so that tells you like how much help it needs, how much your body needs that support or whatever it is to know exactly what's wrong with it. But because of your nose, you don't know, you might have like scar tissue that hasn't healed, and because it hasn't healed properly, it's over compromising, and then you've got all these other things that happen, and it's just that long-term effect if things aren't healed properly in the beginning. That's why I'm so careful with my leg. Even though it sometimes feels okay, I'm still doing everything I'm supposed to do for it. I want it to heal, and I do not want long-term issues.
No,
I don't want
you guys.
The
one biggest advice I wish I can go back and tell myself is just heal. Don't push yourself. Don't. I mean, I even find myself sometimes doing this as a mom. Like, like I also had injured my knees like 2 months ago, maybe now, just from like bending down and grabbing things, you guys. Like, okay, it wasn't like a physical fall or anything, but pregnancy really, I lost so much muscle mass, and it really weakened, especially my lower body. That just bending down and being on my knees and grabbing toys underneath shelves and under the bed and all that kind of stuff just took a toll. And I wasn't doing enough physical strength exercises to be supporting those type of movements that I injured my knee. And I remember even laying in bed, I had to be careful with how I had my knee, because any type of movement, lateral movement, I can feel it re-injured. And there was a couple times where I was feeling better and I go and I push myself and then I'm back to where I was feeling.
This is it needs time to heal, but then it just shows that everything matters, like how you bend down. I know my husband's wife, she's got a lot of back problems, but and I'm taking note. I'm taking note because I want to start family.
Wait, who? Your husband's?
My husband's wife. My husband's wife. So she gave birth about a year and a bit ago, and she said it's because you Wait,
did you say your husband's?
Oh, wife? I do that all the time.
Like, I knew that's not what you meant, but
I said the same thing to the nurse, and my husband said to me after, do you know you said your husband's wife? I was like, yeah, that's what I meant. And he went, no. I went, oh no wonder she looked at me weird. She was like, what?
Like, you mean you or like
other wives? Okay, we're doing that, are we? No, sorry, I need to stop saying that. God, thank you, Priscilla. My brother's wife. I need to stop saying that. She has a lot of back problems, and she said it's because like when you have a baby, you're constantly bending over, you're grabbing this, you're picking them up, and when you're changing the nappies, you're bent, and you aren't aware because you're just trying to give to the baby. You're not even aware of your body, but again, the body is keeping score.
Oh,
so if you're not doing things correctly, again, somewhere down the line, something's going to crack, something's going to go. Yeah. So she's in so much pain right now. So I'm like, okay, all these notes, take notes.
Yeah, posture.
Baby must do right postures, must think before.
Yes, posture. There is some videos that I saw specifically on that subject that you just reminded me of, and it's helped me so much. But it's like instead of like bending down and hunching like this to pick up your child, you get in like a squat lunge position.
Oh.
Put them up and then So that's one thing that use your legs. I'm so thankful is that my postpartum wasn't focused on weight loss; it was focused on posture. Because I knew for me, well, because like posture was such an issue in the past for me. Like that was even part of my health protocol. Like, hey, keep your, you know,
I have bad
like have the posture.
Yeah.
Just constant posture correction, because
Yeah.
without proper posture, you're not
now,
breathing right.
See? Yeah.
I know, I do that all the time too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Posture is another physical stressor, you guys. It literally would cut off your oxygen supply if you're like this. Just straighten up, pull your shoulders back down, chest up, you know.
All these things.
Simple tips.
I have posture problem. I saw it on my notes. Osteo something. I have it, but they never told me that.
Osteoporosis?
I think so. So I've got like a really crooked back, but I know when I was younger, I used to like just stand really awkwardly all the time.
Yeah,
and when I would
me
do
too.
one at school, I would lean to one side and like right on my desk all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel my body's a bit like wonky. Again,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? Your body's compromising. So when I was
it's adapting.
15?
It's constantly adapting to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I was like 15, 16, the worst pains. I don't know what the hell was going on. I don't know where it was coming from, but it was excruciating pain. And I was taking so much ibuprofen. Do you see how it all adds up?
Mm-hmm.
It all adds up.
I was taking ibuprofen all the time too.
I can't take it anymore now. Like it messes me up. But I used to take it all the time. Again, you're young, you don't know. And then I did physiotherapy, but just for a short period of time. And I should have carried on those exercises. But now when we talk, I'm doing again the timeline. Things I've forgotten that I've done, that's happened to me when I was younger. So it's like, okay, that accident happened, that happened physically, that happened, and that meant antibiotics, that meant ibuprofen, that meant this, that meant that. I think everybody who's watching this, I feel like they should just do a timeline of all the physical. Let's just focus on physical stresses.
Yes.
Just think what dental things have happened to you, what posture things, what bruises, accidents, what did that mean you had to take a lot of I don't know if you guys call it ibuprofen in America.
Ibuprofen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aspirin,
ibuprofen.
What antibiotics did you take? What dental treatments? Yeah, because that's a huge one.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
It just helps you to understand that and your story and what's happening to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No. Yes. Like everything you're saying, I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
Dude, seriously, this is a perfect exercise for you to do, even for us to do. Well, we were kind of already did it because we were preparing for this episode, but do a timeline, do a health history on yourself. Okay. Do a timeline of all your physical stressors, accidents, falls, any hospitalization you've been in, also any type of diagnosis you've been given, even if it's like leaky gut, other issues, and then do a medication history. What medication have you been on? Because all of those deplete you of nutrients, and also they disrupt your microbiome, your gut microbiome. It's just important to know so you can have a game plan on how you can start reducing physical stressors.
Exactly.
You know, if you realize you've had a history of antibiotics, you're going to know that taking probiotics is going to be high on your list.
Every day.
Fixing that gut. Yeah. And it could be that simple, you know? To help reduce the stressors. But one thing you did remind me of that right now, which I have really bad memory, man, but I did have one injury when I was 15, and it was a knee injury. I was on one of those quads, you know, those quad motorcycles.
Yeah.
We were on a family vacation out in Mexico, in Baja, Mexico, which is like borderline of California. And we were out on the beach riding these quads, and there's this hill that you can go up and down. And my dad and I were doing that, and I was going up and down. And probably on like my 5th time, I got really close to the edge of that hill, and I slipped off of it, like on the quad, and I went flying off of the quad. I landed on the sand. It was maybe like a 10 to 12 foot hill. So it wasn't like massive, and this was the sand, but it was enough that I felt an impact on my right knee. And I remember looking up, and I just see the quad like flying over my head. And then when I got up, I couldn't walk. I couldn't straighten my knee. My right knee took the full impact of that fall. But never went to see the doctor. Never. My dad just threw me on his back, piggybacked, and we just, you know.
And which
took
is
it
the
easy
knee
the
that
rest of
hurts you now?
It started off with my right knee. Yeah, my right knee. But the interesting thing is, what scared me with my knee injury was I was expecting it to be my right knee. So I was like, okay, man, my right knee's acting up. But with pregnancy, it was my right knee started to feel better, then my left knee got injured. So that's when I realized this is a muscle issue, but still, it was just like, no, not my,
So
not
it's
my
like,
good knee.
oh man, it's just interesting because when it's a physical injury, like I say, I can see my knee, I can see the scarring and stuff. It's so much easier to know what's going on. But if only we could just have this scan and someone can see, like, right, in, you know, like they can tell if they cut a tree because of how many lines there is, it can tell them how old the tree is. But like for us, if they could look at us and go, yeah, around this age, this happened here, and that reduced, and then you've got issues here. I think we are still walking around with internal injuries that are not.
Easily. You see, I think that that's just life. Okay. But I feel like when you are now dealing with chronic pain, that's like, it needs to be addressed, right? If you can go through life and you're not feeling pain from past injuries and stuff like that, like, awesome. But if you happen to be developing chronic pain and autoimmunity, then you do need to look at these past injuries and try to see maybe there's a certain injury that didn't heal properly that your body is adapting and compensating for, that's causing stresses on other parts. So you did describe a similar test. You'd have to see a corrective chiropractor, I believe, to get these type of tests done. Yeah.
Corrective chiropractor.
But there's the, I think it's called the heart rate variability test.
What's it for?
Or
like,
I think it checks your body, kind of like what you were saying. Like, well, it's going to check your nervous system, first of all. Like if you're in fight or flight more. I need to look into this stuff, you guys, because I haven't gotten it done. It's on my like wish list to do. But x-rays, you're gonna have to do x-rays, especially if you've had like nerve damage, you know, or anything where ligaments or anything where there's been more in-depth.
Yeah, because the bone, like when she did an x-ray of my knee, it came out like there's nothing wrong with the bone structure, but she knows that there's ligament problem, but it doesn't come out on the, it's just so costly. This is the thing, to have all
I know.
This is
but that's why I want to remind you guys that don't feel like if you can't get that you can't do anything to reduce your physical stressors. There's so much you can do. Like I was losing weight. I fixed my leaky gut. I was taking out muscle tension with the tennis ball, where, you know, I can manage that at home. Epsom salt bath to help reduce the muscle tension. Like there's so many things you can do.
Green smoothies. Smoothies to just get
green smoothie, give your
it
body
will go
nutrients.
To the healing places. Give the body nutrients to heal that. If you think back that you don't eat properly, you don't sleep properly, you don't do anything properly, then it's still there. Whatever issues are going on, it's not healing.
And gut health is so important. I think it's one of those common denominators that you always hear people talking about, because if you're not absorbing nutrients, it doesn't matter how many supplements you're taking, how many green smoothies you're drinking, you're not going to be getting those benefits. So gut health is extremely important to focus on. Yes, because you need to make sure that you're getting proper absorption of nutrients. I'm trying to do a quick search for the heart rate variability test.
Heart rate variability test. Interesting.
Oh, I can't show a picture, but it kind of shows like a image of like different colors, like green, yellow, orange, and red, and there's a dot. And I've heard Dr. Bergman describe what that dot means and how it correlates to your nervous system. But you really would need to see a corrective chiropractor to like get more in depth. And honestly, I think there's nobody better than to work with than a corrective chiropractor when you're dealing with like past physical injuries, you know.
I need that. Let me see what I can do. You got to so many things to it's so many things to to do, but then it's like you're worth it. It's your body, you're worth it. We're still young, and just for the next decade or whatever to be a good one, like for us not to suffer anymore. Just do what you can do right now, and then again, the body will of all the good things you're doing. It will do that. That's helped me.
You know,
that's helped me a lot. Every day matters. Everything every day matters.
Yes. Oh yes. That's why daily habits. You are literally, you are going to be the accumulation of what you do every single day. Right. And I think people just think, oh, but today I'm just gonna do this today. I'm just not gonna worry about my diet. And then tomorrow comes, oh, it's not big deal. It all adds up.
It all adds
and
up.
I'm proof of that because I had a very unhealthy diet. I was completely unaware of everything that we're talking about here. And I did that on a day-to-day base. And I was somewhat happy and content. I made myself comfortable with as badly as I felt. You always find a way to feel comfortable to, you know what I mean? And I was too comfortable. So it didn't take until I got diagnosed to really like wake me up and scare me. Like, wait a minute, this is a lot more serious than I expected. And then, and then all of a sudden, everything that I did every single day mattered. I mean, it was the only thing I focused on. It's the only thing I could. I didn't have that many resources. That's why I know it's so powerful, because it was the only thing I had that I can do. And I took advantage of it and it worked.
This is it. I would see it differently. Like, take this diagnosis, whenever it was, as an opportunity to now focus on yourself, that you matter and you need to just focus on yourself now. Take it as that, rather than how I used to take it. Woe is me. Why did this happen to me? Why is this happening to me? And just spiraling. And that it's just compounded. The more you spiral, the more things just add on top of you, the more you're just going down that abyss. It doesn't help. Change your perspective and just see it as an opportunity to start working yourself from scratch. Like, okay, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, and then now you're putting Humpty Dumpty together again, but not with sellotape and glue, just like we're all Humpty Dumpty.
I was imagining myself as Humpty Dumpty.
Where we were all Humpty Dumpties, and we didn't realize what all those things that we might have contributed did. We fell off the wall, and now we're going to put ourselves together again slowly. Every tiny little thing you do matters. Every tiny thing you do matters.
Yeah. And anything that's important to you, it's important, regardless of what anybody else is telling you, So if you feel like it's important for you to address, let's say, whatever pain you're feeling, like wherever it's at in your body, don't dismiss it. If you feel intuitively like, hey, I feel like this back pain is contributing to my thyroid issue, get it checked out. Don't discount it. And we always talk about the power of our intuition, how that's always been something that's guided both of our health journey, and it's guided us in the right direction every single time. And again, that's another episode we're going to do, because I think a lot of people get confused with their like how to follow their intuition, or is it their intuition?
When do we talk about the poll results?
Oh yeah.
We're still getting this. Which one was that one on?
The first one? Was it the first one?
Let me check. I am checking now. Do I have to press play? Okay, right. Poll. Oh yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, the first
one. And we did a poll. We didn't have that many people answer the poll, but anyway, we'll still share the results. So the poll question was, how often have you listened to your intuition to guide you in your health journey? And the results are 50-50. Wait.
Really?
50-50. Nobody, but there's 0% for none of the time. There is 50% for some of the time, 50% for all of the time. So it shows that people are at least using it a little bit.
They're either using it or they're not using it.
No, there's no one that has not used it.
So everybody's using it?
Everyone's using it. So for none of the time, 0%. For some of the time, 50%. For all of the time, 50%. So that's good to know
So
that people are using.
Yeah. So I think that either people use it or people get discouraged to use it.
But they've used it at
like,
least a little bit. They haven't not used it. Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
So far, but that's just a
Yeah,
small number. It would be good. I'm going to extend that poll, to be honest, because I want to
it would be cool
to
like down the line to re-ask that. Yeah, if you guys want to take the poll, I mean, it's just going to add to our conversation and help us kind of understand these topics a little bit, because what Miran and I, what we're trying to do is we're trying to connect the similarities that we all share, and so that you can realize how it's not just you. You know what I mean? Because I think that's one of the worst feelings to feel, like this is just happening to you. It's because you're like this, or you think like this, or you're not alone. Oh my gosh, I can't begin to tell you the common threads that I share with so many men and women who reach out and send me messages. I just look at myself. I relate so much with what they say. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was me. That was exactly me. So
yeah,
we're so much more alike, and we have so much of the same fears, anxiety, worries, thoughts. We all want health, you know what I mean? And so yeah, let's just create that space, and I would love for you guys to take the poll.
Yeah, this is a safe space.
Yes.
I can't think what else now. Is that the end of that one?
What else do we
That was a lot. That was a lot. We can end it there if you want, unless you had more to say.
Yeah. No, I think that was pretty good.
That was really good.
Yeah, I think that you and I just kind of did a live health history on ourselves.
Literally.
You know, what does a health history look like? And it looks like this. You're going to recount every single time you got hurt.
It's coming to me. Do you think it doesn't stop?
Too. Isn't that crazy that I forgot about my knee?
Yeah, because when we first started it, I think you were like, I don't think I've had that many injuries.
Yeah, I was like, I never got hurt. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I got
people. Yeah, because people listen and go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And those oh yeahs are going to help people connect with themselves and their story, because it all matters.
Yeah.
Us at this age, us at that age, us at all these ages, it all matters.
Or also, like, I think the common thread of like how much these intervention, like taking these medications, can contribute to a lot of depletion and stress. Yeah. Because I think that the injury is one part, and then the aftermath of healing is the second part. No, there's three parts: the actual injury, the medications, and then like how do you heal? Because a lot of times, like does your body heal properly? Like, does it? You know, like look at how neglectful my car accident. My body just had to figure it out.
It's got to it's working around it, but then that's one thing that it's stressing about.
But then there's consequence. Yes.
It's not rested. It's not just flowing. You know how they have that meridian, and your body is supposed to be in like chi, in flow. There has to be this flow. I believe in that. I believe that there's this energy flow there, and if it's blocked in certain places, and it's just not, it's out of whack. It's out of. It's just not. It's what do they call it?
It needs to flow.
It needs to flow. It's
like an ebb and flow. Ebb and flow.
Yeah. So energetically, it's probably like this jaggedy.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the body and all of the mechanisms that it takes to function, it is insane. You got the brain, the heart, first of all, you got all the organs and glands. Then you got every nerves in your body. And then you have the lymphatic system, then you have your skeleton system, your muscular system, your ligament system. There's so many layers.
Yeah.
It is a machine. And it really is like, you have to be at awe at it, and you have to appreciate it. But there's just so many elements to it. That's why there needs to be an ebb and flow. Everything connects.
Yeah, and it's think of it as it telling you, like, let me do my job. Like all these parts of your body, like these constables, these policemen that are just focusing on what they need to do to keep you alive, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's like, let me do my job. And it's like, why is this not working?
Don't get in my way.
Why is this in my way? Why is this in my way? Yeah. And then it just, the whole assembly line is like out of whack now, and then it's all gone all over the place. They have to now maneuver around this I don't know. I've got quite a visual memory.
You're actually, that's exactly, I feel like that's exactly what I visualize when Dr. Bergman says the body has to adapt. It is adapting. So I feel like it's exactly what you described. Like it's trying to fix an injury. It can't. So outmaneuvers, and it patches what it needs to patch, but then it creates a different route or a different type of healing. But while it's doing that, it's disrupting something else because it wasn't meant to heal that way. But it's still finding its way. It's
still keeping you alive. You're still going, but you're not at that quality of life. It's not the quality it could be because it's over
compensating for
overcompensating. Fascinating. I love the human body. I wish we could see what our internals look like because we don't know what is going on in there.
I know.
It's doing so much. We're disconnected. I mean, we're not surgeons, so we don't really know what everything does.
I do think it's important to make it a passion, or maybe passion is too strong of a word. I feel like it's a passion. But maybe,
I love that word.
Maybe for other people, make it like common knowledge, because that is a medical advancement that we have in society. To everything we know about the human body, I think it's a blessing. Let's use it for the good. And I remember Barbara O'Neill, who I love and always watched her videos as well. She literally believes, she's a Christian-based woman of faith, and she's a wellness advocate. And she literally believes in reading the Bible daily and reading a little bit of the body, the physiology of the body, and understanding it.
I like that. That's why I buy like these books and I get so excited.
Yes.
And then
so funny because I have one too. Let me grab it. Yeah, I got the one that Dr. Bergman recommended.
I just love it, knowing what's going on inside. Yeah.
The physiology coloring book.
Which I want that.
Yeah. And then the anatomy coloring book. So these were actually recommended by Dr. Bergman. I did his apprenticeship class once, and he recommended these. So I just bought anything he recommends, I buy.
I am gonna buy that. Because as you're coloring, you're learning.
Yeah. The Role of Medicine is another book that was recommended by Dr. Bergman.
The Role of Medicine. Okay. We might need to start a book club on the side.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? Oh my God. It says Thompson, I can't say his last name, McKeown, contends that nutritional, environmental, and behavioral changes have been and will be more important than specific medical measures, especially clinical or curative measures. He argues that because of assumptions widely held since the 17th century that the body can be regarded as a machine, whose protection from disease depends on internal intervention. The role of medicine is distorted. Yeah. Medical science and services are misdirected, and society investment in health is misused. That's really interesting because I almost want to make sure not to demonize modern healthcare, because it is so powerful and life-saving.
Yes.
But it's not about demonizing it, but understanding of when to not misuse it, to not do too much, to not do unnecessary interventions. And this just reminded me of another injury that I had as a newlywed. I got married in 2020, and my husband and I were biking around our neighborhood. And I went to, instead of kicking my kickstand, I bent over because it was on the other side. And with my thumb, I flicked it.
Yeah.
With my thumb, it got pinched.
Oh.
It got pinched, and it took it gashed. It was like the deepest wound I've ever had. Ooh. I was bleeding so much that it was like puddling in my hand. It's pretty gross. Ooh. And I was like, bloop, like dropping it in the dirt. Anyways, I went to your face. My husband was like, you need to go to the ER, or like to one of those emergency clinics. He's like, you need to go get it checked out. You might need stitches. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Or a tetanus shot. And I was just like, no, I'm fine. I'm very conservative when it comes to interventions. Mm-hmm. And I think the first night I did like a herbal what's it called? Poultice
I don't know
on
that.
it. I use like chamomile, and I just like
Mhm.
I did a little research. I think it's called poultice. I hope I'm saying that right.
Mm.
It's just like a little herbal pack, and I tied I tied it to my thumb, and the following day my husband was like, "Man, you need to go. You need to go." So I was like, "Okay, fine." So I went. They looked at it, and well, first when I was waiting in the room, I noticed in the back of the door of the room that I was waiting for the doctor to come in, it had a big poster about saying it was saying something on the lines that it's important to not over medicate with antibiotics.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
this is interesting, because this is a conventional clinic, but even now in 2020, the medical conventional healthcare system is starting to acknowledge the overuse and overprescription of antibiotics, that it even had a poster saying like, let's, everything basically doesn't need to be treated with antibiotics. Let's not overuse it. So I was just like, I was
They
really
must know the
surprised to see
implications of
that.
what this has meant on people's health now. It's
Yeah,
like
antibiotics are life-saving
they are
medicine.
Yeah.
But it's not necessary every single time, which was happening now. That's been happening now
It's
for
the first thing they say to you. Here's an
decades.
antibiotic for that. Here's an
Yeah.
antibiotic for that. For me now, this
Yeah.
time I got it because it's a skin one, and they gave me a skin infection antibiotic, and I thought, okay, fine, I get that one. But other times
Yeah.
I'm like, please don't give me
Well,
antibiotics.
my thumb healed without stitches. They told me to just wash it like multiple times a day with soap and water and make sure it doesn't get disinfected. That was what they told
Didn't it
me.
inject you?
I didn't get the tetanus. I decline it. And
They did
I was
offer it to you.
They asked me, and I was just
Did
like,
they? I got it for this leg injury because I just thought, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't want.
I mean, everyone is different, like I'm going off of my own health history. That's why we're recommending you to go to do your health history, because maybe you got the tetanus shot within the past 10 years. You need to know this, because when you go into an emergency, you can say, I had this, I blah, blah, blah. You need to know your health history. Because what you need to do when you get hurt is going to be very different than maybe what I need to do when I get hurt, So, but my thumb, I continue to do little herbal little packs on it, and it healed, and it's fine, and it didn't need stitches or antibiotics or anything. So
you used what you felt was right intuitively, and advocating for yourself, and knowing what you do need and what you don't need, and just dealt with it that way. So you didn't
the clinic didn't push for anything either. They weren't pushing. They didn't ask me for antibiotics. They were clearly not wanting to overprescribe antibiotics. So they just told me to keep an eye on it, clean it, and let us know. Come back if it gets worse.
I wonder if it's a general thing in American healthcare. I'm going to check it here. What is there? Where is their stance on antibiotics at the moment? Because I haven't seen those posters around.
I'm like looking on my phone because I think I took a picture of it. I'm just if I have the picture, I'll share it on Instagram or something. But
it's like back in the day where they were like, nobody realized smoking was bad for you. Everyone was doing it because it was cool, and there's no implications. And then later on, it's like, this thing's going to kill you. Way later, it's like that. Like with antibiotics, everyone's thinking, this is going to just deal with the infection and cure me and help me and heal me. And then it's like years later, actually, it's it can be more damaging if it's not used properly.
Yeah, there's a time and place for everything, but that's why we're advocating that it's important to just, like we were saying, have a record of your health history, so
I need to
what treatment option is going to be best for you.
I think while I'm resting and at home, I'm going to get my medical records.
Yeah, so like one thing that I noticed here with at least my labs, my blood lab, is I can go directly to that company, so it's Quest Diagnostics, and I can create my own account, and any lab work that I've done through them, I have all my records
I have that, yes,
So
with Medichecks. I use Medichecks.
that is super handy. Like I love
Good
that.
to
Sorry,
keep.
I'm just scrolling. I want to try to see if I can find a picture because I think it was like a pretty bad.
Well, it's like quietly done until it gets to the news. I haven't heard it in the news, the impacts of antibiotics.
I did kind of once hear, maybe around 2020, that there was an antibiotic shortage. Maybe that's why the med clinic was like, we're not gonna. Oh, here it is. So this is the lighting is super bad. Let me see if I can add a little bit more lighting to the photo. But I have a picture where I have my thumb wrapped. I'm in bed. And you can just see. Can you see that? Where my thumb's like wrapped. I have like a chamomile herbal type of
that's what I would do. I love these I love doing home remedies, but you have to.
This is, if you're kind of squeamish, don't look. There's no blood, but it's the cut, and you can kind of see the bruising in the depth of it.
Yeah. Wasn't it a metal thing that cut you?
It was like the kickstand, which is metal. Yeah. But it pinched it. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah. It pinched it and then made it bleed. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It got caught and it's what cut it. So here it is. It says, I took a picture of it because I couldn't believe it. I'm going to read this. You can't really read it because it's the light. But it says, viruses or bacteria, what's got you sick? Antibiotics are only needed for treating certain infections caused by bacteria. Viral illnesses cannot be treated with antibiotics. When an antibiotic is not prescribed, ask your healthcare professional for tips on how to relieve symptoms and feel better. And it's telling you, okay, sore throat, whooping cough, a urinary tract infection, that's a bacteria. And yes, you will need antibiotics. A sinus infection, that's a bacteria or virus. It says maybe. A middle ear infection is a bacteria or virus, so maybe. Bronchitis, chest cold, in otherwise healthy children and adults is a bacteria or virus, but it says no to antibiotics. A common cold or runny nose, no to antibiotics. Sore throat, except strep, no antibiotics. Flu, no antibiotics. Be antibiotics aware. Smart use, best care. To learn more about antibiotics, prescribing and use, visit the www.cdc.gov/antibiotics-use. So that was from the CDC.
I shall be checking that out.
I took a picture.
Good.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah. It's good to be antibiotics aware.
I kind of actually feel that is important to know as a patient, especially if you're a mother. Like,
oh my God. Or pregnant? Do they give you antibiotics?
Or pregnant. It depends. If you have if you have what's it called? Strep B, some type of bacteria. I think it's called strep B. And you're down there. Everybody has it, but if you have an overabundance of it, they will most likely recommend you to have antibiotics if you have your child vaginal, because they could potentially get sick and be hurt, from that. But again, the statistics, it's scary. It's scary with statistics because if it happens to one child, then it's like everybody's at risk, but the statistic is small in comparison, but you still need to know your risks. So or if you have a urinary tract, I'm pretty sure they might give you an antibiotic if you're pregnant. I'm not sure because I didn't have any of that, but
it's scary because then when you take the antibiotics, your baby takes the antibiotics through the breast milk, so then they have now got that in their system at such an early stage. So it's just being aware of it.
It's just being aware. I think it's not about fearing these situations, and we talked about this a little bit too. It's knowing what your options are. You're going to have less anxiety and fear. Just know that if you're in a situation where you truly do need antibiotics, you know what you can do to recuperate any depletion that it's caused or the microbiome damage that it caused. You're going to need to put on probiotics. And if you're breastfeeding, give your child probiotics. Of course, talk to your doctor before you do any of this. But you have to discuss what your options are with your doctor, no matter what. But just know what your options are. So
physical stresses. I just cannot believe that this one has been the biggest topic so far for us. It could even go into a part 3, but I want to get into the chemical one as well.
I've noticed that some of it overlaps. I feel like a lot of chemical stressors overlap because a lot of medications cause physical changes because of depletions, and it changes your microbiome, but that also changes your hormones. So that's a chemical. And so some of these just
we can still, when we do the next podcast on the chemical stresses, we're going to do again a timeline of when do we think these chemical stresses might have happened, and when putting it like that makes it easier to understand, like we've done with the what was before emotional stresses. They all interlink. I mean, they all really interlink, but timelines for each one, and then it just makes it easier to understand your journey.
I feel like a lot of times when I share with anybody like this approach of reducing your physical, chemical, emotional stressors, they're kind of like, well, what does that look like? So that's what we're hoping to do by sharing what our physical stressors look like, emotional stressors, and then our chemical, is to kind of give you an idea how that looks like in our personal life, so that you can have an idea of where to look in your environment, in your life, So
we're not medical experts. You can always find a lot of people, medical experts, talking about this, but I think it's nice to have a patient-centered space where we're all just sharing just our ups and downs and navigating. That's the whole thing.
Yes, we're sharing our personal experience, how we interpreted it, how we apply it. We're not, medical experts, or I'm never worked in the medical industry. So we're just sharing how we are navigating, our health with the same information that you're finding, but we're just sharing with you how we've used and applied it and what worked for us. And also, if you just want to know more about this, go check out Dr. John Bergman. Like, there can't be any better source out there. I also like Barbara O'Neill, if you want to look up her videos on YouTube. Dr. Berg is another good source. Dr. Ken Berry is another source. Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Mercola, Dr. Axe. Those are all ones that I have like ready to go on my phone. If I'm dealing with something, I'm like going to their sites to see what they're saying about it. It's always good to have I don't want to say a small set of resources, but because we're in like overload territory here on the internet, it's good to minimize who are your go-to sources to like really trust. And I have my go-to sources, and I'm still bombarded with information, but at least I know I have a small source of group that I can go and learn more if I'm really interested in a certain subject. So we'll have to do another episode on that.
Might do. Protect your energy, because it can be energy sapping with all this information. Everybody's trying to get your attention, and I feel overwhelmed as soon as I go into my phone. But if you just know what works for you and what helps you, narrow it down, then it can just make it easy for you. Again, I think simplify it. Listen to that episode 3, I think it was, that we've done. That's a really good episode. That's a good start. I think that's a really
Man, I've been listening to it so much, and I'm trying to get like clips so I can put it on Instagram. There's just so many good things. Even on the grief one, I'm like, I need to go back and do some more clips, because I feel like I couldn't extract everything I wanted out of it. But
so each of these conversations that when I go back to it, I'm like, it's just funny because we're talking about it, but then I learn from it again. I'm just learning from it over and over again. I don't know. We're talking to each other, and it's not like plan what we're going to say. So it's insightful. It's really insightful. And also because you can feel so alone in this struggle. So having you to bounce off of and be like, oh yeah, oh my God, that happened to me. And this is what I did. And you're like, this is what I did. And that's what this is about. It's me and you, but it's like, we're carrying everybody with us at the same time, if that makes sense. We're trying to do that so that everybody can feel validated in their journey. Of course, not alone.
And one thing that you and I have talked to is that we want to have guests on the podcast as well that have had Graves' disease. We've had a few people reach out that that can add a different perspective and a different healing journey to Graves, and I always think it's good to hear that, because not everybody we don't have a one size fits all type of solution. So that would be fun to do a little later down the line, is to have guests on here.
I think it is actually, because we're going to do the chemical stressors. There's always these topics. I get so excited. I'm like, can we do the episode on this? So
I know
it will be soon come. We've just begun.
Yeah. I think it's good to hear. Like, sometimes I still do that. Like, I still listen to episode of other women sharing their Graves story, and I'm just like in shock how different their experiences is. It's just, I think I've heard one where she called her thyroid a zombie thyroid, because I think she had the radioactive iodine done, and it was like there's this rare chance of it still like responding or like it like came back to life, something like that. It was like she called it the zombie. I actually want to reach out to her, the zombie thyroid, where it was like causing still problems for her. It was wild, man. I was just like, wow, we really are all
Yeah,
I
think that's what makes it such a difficult topic, because no one's journey is the same.
Yeah, so but what can I say about that? I'm just like, but she has this whole different side of experience and knowledge and just perspective that if I put myself in, if I go back and put myself in those shoes when I was first diagnosed, I would want to hear that. It's just so good to understand that Graves' disease is truly a unique experience for every individual, regardless of your treatment option. Whether or not you did the same treatment option, it still can look very different. So it really is,
Graves,
unique.
thyroid, it's all similar. It's all very similar. So hopefully it can relate to anybody, not just anybody with Graves' disease, but anyone with the thyroid issue, because it's all the same.
Yeah.
It is a thyroid issue.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, or it's an immune system issue, but it's a thyroid that's being attacked.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But
yeah, you're right.
I hope this helps. Yeah. I'm going to tune in next week for sure. It's going to
be physical stressors.
Chemical stressors.
Oh, yeah. Chemical stressors.
That'll be interesting. So, yeah.
That is the end of this week's Thyroid Sisters Navigate Graves' Disease podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you found it useful and enjoyable. Please do follow and subscribe to our podcast so that you are the first to hear about new episodes.
And if you're enjoying them, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this will help us so much. The bigger the show gets, the bigger the awareness raised.
You can find us on social media using the handle @lovingmekindly, and also the handle @healing_unapologetically. Until next time.